Welcome to How to Brothel, a Go Woo Yourself mini-series. This episode is about life as a legal courtesan at Sheri's ranch. I'm your host and writer of these posts, Luna Robbie, and my goal always is for us to learn how to connect with other humans in satisfying ways, to spread ripples of love, and to share our individual wisdom and woosdom so that we may co-create a sexier, more loving world together. If you would like to read the written version without my personal commentary, you can find all of these posts on my website, lunarrobbie.com/FAQ, and that is also where you can ask me any questions I haven't covered yet. I have a few dozen topics currently planned for this series, and all of them are inspired and prioritized by the most common queries I get from friends, lovers, and other curious humans. So let's dive in. Once upon a time, one guy who was visiting Sheri's for a tour asked, "So, what do you do when you're not with someone? Sit around and paint each other's toenails?" He was 40-ish, dressed like someone who was coming to or from a golf course, even though he talked like that, and had been giggling with his guy friends throughout their entire lunch, so it was my guess that he was trying to entertain or possibly impress them. Instead of smacking him really hard, like my limbic system wanted me to, I took a breath and a couple of gentle steps toward him as I asked my lizard brain to go back to meditating so that my conscious mind could take over and prepare to politely educate him. I explained, gently, that we don't usually have time for that, since all of the ladies here are business owners, and that comes with a certain amount of admin duties, on top of which most of the goddesses with whom I work are artists, community organizers, or students, or creatives, or have multiple businesses. So we usually only paint each other's toenails when someone books a two-girl overnight with a proper sleepover theme. And it was around then that my lizard brain may have partially woken up because I added how wonderful it was that he had found his way to a brothel because he clearly doesn't have a lot of experience with adult women. It is an interesting experience to live and work with up to 24 other ladies at a time in an environment designed to invite unexpected surprises. Some of us attempt daily routines between bar calls, lineups, and appointments, and mine is led by self-care, curiosity, and desire. While I've never exactly been accused of being typical, I am asked about the specifics of day-to-day life at the ranch so often that I thought it would be fun, or at least very informative in my hyper-detailed sort of way, to share about how a day might unfold in the life of a legal courtesan at Sheri's ranch, at least once we're settled in. First, the daily rhythms. Regardless of where in the world I am, it is my daily practices that help me create a sense of stability in life. Especially at the ranch, the order and timing might wildly shift than what I'm about to share, but on my normal, I'm doing air quotes, days, it might look something like this. I wake up, usually between 7 and 10 a.m., depending on how late I stayed up. I am not a night owl. However, if I am requested at any time of day or night, I am always curious. Like, I will always wake up to see what lovely, hopefully lovely being is requesting me. Then, after I wake up, I meditate, usually for about 20 minutes in the morning, 10 to 20 minutes at night, depends on how I'm feeling. Then I have coffee. I will either mix a functional mushroom coffee, not a psychoactive one, with water from the hot spot in our laundry room, or I'll walk all the way down to the communal coffee pot in the kitchen. And if I go through the kitchen, I always try to walk outside unless it is very, very cold to get morning sunlight in my eyes within 30 minutes of waking up. It is so much easier to do this at a place where I can open one door, open another door, and be outside. Whereas in my Los Angeles apartment, it's more doors and lots of stories, and there's something about a lot of stairs and or elevators that just make it harder for me to actually get outside. And then once I'm down there, I have to be in the right spot to actually get sunlight or go up to a roof or something. So I love taking advantage of easy access to outdoors and grass and nature. Then, or usually with my coffee, I will check appointments for the day at the front desk, and if I don't have any immediately upcoming, I will inform them that I'm going to go walk circles in the roundish courtyard so that they know where to find me if I have a request. I am often joined by my lady friends or will cross paths with other lady friends who are doing the same. Sometimes we walk like in the same direction. We're kind of like circling, like we're on opposite sides. Sometimes we cross each other's paths over and over again. And it is an exceptionally beautiful way to spend mornings and sunsets at the ranch. Then I usually journal. I love to process all of my experiences through writing. In my private journal, I also have what I call my magic journal, where I spend focused time writing about my wishes until they come true. It works, so okay. Some are still in progress, and I feel hopeful. So I will sometimes do this very first thing in the morning, post meditation with coffee, and I will walk after because it seems to be very powerful to use my most hopeful morning energy. Like, I don't know about you, I am a morning person, but like I wake up and I'm like, whew, another day of possibility. And so I like to kind of capture that as I am envisioning what I want to unfold in my life next. However, sometimes answering time sensitive emails may take this slot. So this is where, maybe I do it in this order, but not always. Sometimes I journal at night. Like it depends on, but better a little bit of late journaling than no journaling at all. And also if I have to go a few days without because I'm busy, well, it's a different type of magic that is being created and or co-created, right? Next, I'll usually move my body. Gigi, Genevieve, or Valoria might join me in the ranch's little gym, or I might just do a solo workout on my mat in my room. I do have it's a Dollamure gymnastics mat. I have a big 5x10 one here at home, and I have a little 3x6 one that I roll up and keep in the ranch's gym when I'm, traveling. And then when I get there, I get it and I unroll it so it gets flat and I keep it under my bed so I can easily pull it out. It is also something that I will bring out and, I'll put a sheet over if I have a foot worshiper so that I can sit on the bed. And I like knees to be comfortable. When in my most submissive days, it's kind of those mild discomforts that the dominant is not clocking. That is a no go. Like that's a no go red zone for me. So I always want to make sure that anyone who's worshiping me has a comfortable place. And it is fun to like I had a guy lay on my mat, like it was covered with a sheet, and I had him lay down, and then I was like stomping on him a little bit. So that was very fun. Yeah. So I have my workout mat. It's really great to do yoga, or I have kind of my favorite videos that I do, or sometimes I will just do a free whatever stretches, whatever movements my body needs. I also have a trainer that I work with sometimes. So it really just depends. It can look anyway, but I make a concerted effort to move my body vigorously to keep my muscles and joints strong. And I have been doing this consistently for a number of years now. So it's like even if I miss a day here or there because I am so busy getting booked up, I make sure to always kind of return to it for my baselines because it has been so satisfying to be able to fuck as long as I need. Like I can be on top for as long as you need. I can fuck you as long as possible. Do you need my strap? Do you need me to just be on top? Anything you need. So that is my main incentive for working out. Aside from like I know longevity and I want to have quality of life later on. I love getting up and moving my body and being strong. But like, man, if someone had told me in my 20s that working out would improve my sex life, I would have hopped on this train so much sooner. But you know what? We only know what we know when we know about it. I also didn't know about bone density, muscle health. Like, there's so many benefits to working out, or as I like to say, moving the body in a kind of like consistent, regimented way that builds muscle that I simply did not know about in my early 20s. Then, once I'm nice and sweaty, I usually swim, or in the winter, I will sometimes make it a cold plunge. I love to move my body in the water, whether it is the refreshingly, very refreshingly cold pool at Sheri's or sometimes swirling in the hot tub, assuming that it's on and working, which it has been consistently for months now. I am so pleased, so grateful. I like a hot tub even in the summer. Sometimes I will bring my Bluetooth keyboard and a second round of coffee, and I'll be in the hot tub and answering emails. I might swim. In the summer times, I love to swim and do a few laps in the pool. If it's a hair washing day, I will jump all the way in, usually topless. Sometimes I'll make a slow mo video of it. And I love swimming around in there. I'll go in the waterfall and pretend to be a mermaid. Like we have a waterfall with a little like nook you can sit in. I'll be all aerialish about it. Sometimes I'll even sing the part of your world song if I feel inspired, if I can get another lady friend mermaid in there with me. It's really, really fun. In the winter, if it is a cold plunge, I will do them sometimes. I didn't do as many this past year, but the year before, I did a lot because I was like, I am gonna just maximize, maximize. But then this past year, the hot tub was like working and not working, and I will only do a cold plunge if I have a hot tub to look forward to. I know that part of the benefit of cold plunges are the like shivering that happens afterward. I prefer to limit my shivering to the minute or two that I can stand in the pool. And all that is to say, it's much easier to cold plunge when I'm very hot and sweaty. So I love that part of the routine. If I have an appointment coming up, or if oftentimes I will get requested out of the hot tub. That might just have to do with numbers of how often I'm in there. But I like to think that the hot tub is the magic cauldron at the heart of the oasis. So I go in there, and sometimes I will magic journal while in the magic cauldron, and I will swirl for my wishes for the super brothel to make the world a sexier, more loving place and have a world where taking care of each other is the norm. So that's if you see me out there in the hot tub ever just like swirling my hand around, I am in a focused way meditating on making the world a sexier, more loving place, one ripple of love at a time, one cauldron swirl at a time. And so that's just fun. I don't know. I say any body of water is a potential cauldron to swirl in. I don't know anything about actual cauldrons. This is all my own made up stuff, but it feels like it really works. I feel like there's lots of power in planting seeds in a hot tub cauldron. So then I usually shower. I often do take multiple showers in the day depending on how it unfolds and how many showers I need. Definitely anytime I get super sweaty and or covered in chlorine, I take a shower. So rest assured, if you are finding me at the ranch, I am always fresh and ready for whatever might come next, unless I have literally just gotten out of the hot tub or pool, in which case those are the ones where I'm like, well, I just got out of the pool, so I will shower with you. Then I usually get ready for the day. And while I do my best to, again, always be in a presentable state of readiness, Camille says, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So I do my best to follow that Camilleism and stay ready. And if I do put on makeup, and I often do not, or I will forget unless I have an appointment. If I have an appointment, like if I know, even if I don't know you yet, if I get to look forward to you, I am much more aroused. Surprises are good too. Surprises can be great. However, I am more on the train of looking forward to something, if possible. I love a good surprise. And if I get to look forward to someone, then I will make sure that my hair looks, exactly nice. I will make sure that my makeup is done and ready. Or I will be wearing a dress that's whatever my favorite appointment dress of the moment is. I try to remember if I've worn it for someone before or not, but I have my favorite, like, I'm an appointment look. So if I do makeup, I usually do makeup after my first shower. Sometimes I fully skip it and I will go straight to picking out clothes. Some days I just don't feel like wearing makeup. Some days I feel like I don't need it. Some days I feel like people like me better natural faced. Not that I wear a lot of makeup. It's usually like, what do I have on right now? Under eye concealer, my favorite color of eyeshadow and blush, which comes out in a tube. And so I go toot, 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 toot. And then I have my favorite tinted moisturizer chapstick and mascara. And then I brush my eyebrows. So that's that's the secrets of my routine. um, and then there are days where I wake up and I feel like under eye circles are the dominant feature on my face, and those are the days that I usually do want to put on a little bit of concealer. So my first favorite excitement part of the day is drinking coffee. And then the next excitement part is like, oh, now it's time to eat food. I like to wait until I get hungry to eat my first meal of the day. Coffee does delay that sometimes. I think it is so exciting to eat. Not like starving, not like starving. I also, if I have too many pangs of hunger before I get food in me, that is not good either. But I usually like have my morning, have my wake up, have a cup of coffee. Sometimes I put cream in my coffee, so that will like prolong the amount of time. But I love eating food. And whether I'm ordering from the kitchen, eating snacks, or having meal prep that I brought, or some combination thereof, because I often will like, my sister's a chef, so sometimes we'll meal prep and I'll bring some frozen things and have it. The kitchen at the ranch is great. It's just mostly not organic, and I try to eat a lot of organic food to keep my body in top-notch shape. But I'll do a combination. The kitchen is our communal food space. So we say kitchen to refer to both like the area where there are tables where we can sit, and then also like the place where the cooks at the ranch cook for us, and then we go to a window and pick up our food. We call that whole area the kitchen. And then there's the little kitchen in the back, which is where there are 2 fridges and a big deep freezer for ladies to keep food in, and like a bunch of, pots and pans and a little bit of counter space. And I don't have it, but like the ranch has a toaster oven, like a mini toaster oven, baking oven, and someone has an air fryer. I think it's Annalise, and then someone has a coffee thing, so we kind of share some communal stuff and do our best to take care of things in a communal kitchen that, you know, up to 25 ladies a week are cycling through. So it can get hectic. We have little lockers back there where we keep our foodstuffs, or like I have a couple of rocks that I keep for decorations that live in my locker when I leave, since I can't store them because they're too heavy. But anyway, all that is to say, the kitchen is our communal food space, and it's another space of like, you never know what it's going to be like in there. Sometimes there are treats for the group left out on a community share table. Sometimes there are very interesting conversations on, or multiple group hangs, and it's like really energetic and loud and crazy. Depending on the time of day, like sometimes everyone syncs up and we're all eating at the same time, and then sometimes nobody's in there, and I feel like I can't even hear anyone like working in the kitchen, and I'm like having just basically a quiet nibbling meditation, or often I'm like mixing an oatmeal or a chia pudding, or like chopping all the things for a fish delish, which is, I think it is disgusting to call it a fish salad. Like tuna salad doesn't sound good to me. Salmon salad doesn't sound good to me. Like I think that's an unappealing collection of words. So I call it a fish delish. And so people know, like if I'm chopping like a carrot and a cucumber and an apple and I have my like fermented, like I have like a whole bunch of like I'll like carry a bunch of things out of the fridge to a table. It's definitely a cumbersome place to prepare food. Like it's not set up for us to cook ourselves. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? It takes a little bit of effort. Annalise will like fully do meals there. There are a couple of other ladies too. Annalise will sometimes bake treats for us. Annalise was the first lady from the ranch who was a guest on this podcast. So if you have listened to her episode, you know who she is. Maybe you visited her and you know who she is. But for the most part, we order food from the kitchen. Sometimes I combine that. Like lately, I've been doing meal prep stuff ahead of the time with my sister. And so I'll like unfreeze that, put it in my toaster oven. I have a tiny little cast iron that I keep there. Sometimes I'll cook sweet potatoes in it, order eggs from the kitchen and avocado, and yeah. So the texture is always different, but the food is always so satisfying to look forward to. And then there are some moments where it's like, again, this is all if I'm not interrupted. And sometimes there are moments where, like, as soon as I sit down and ready to eat, it's like there's a bar call or a request or whatever. And I have definitely been known to go say hi to people and let them know that I'm in the middle of eating and I would love to speak with them further, but I need like X number of minutes to finish my food because I apparently I'm unique in this. Tell me if you are also like this because I definitely have some friends and lovers who are like, no, you're the weird one. I personally feel that food should be eaten, if it's hot food, if it's not like cold food, I think it should be eaten as soon as reasonably possible from the time it has been prepared. So if I ever make you pancakes or waffles, you must eat it right away or I will become upset. I do not like soggy pancakes. Like, I am such a texture specific person. So when it's just the right amount of like crunchy and soft and warm, like that's the time to gobble it up as fast as possible. Don't let it sit on the plate to get soggy and gross. And who wants to eat a congealed egg yolk? You know what I'm saying? So I take my food time very seriously and and I will interrupt my meal to go say hi to a request or, if someone's unexpectedly coming to find me. But oftentimes, even if there's a bar call, I'll be like, hey, I'm Luna. Welcome to the ranch. Do you have any questions? Wanted to say hi. Would love to talk more. However, I'm in the middle of food. So, like, take a chance to chat with ladies, like, follow your heart, follow your part, see where it takes you. And if you like me, then you can invite me back. Like, we can't reapproach you, but you can invite me back. But I'm just going to go finish my food. I'll be done in like 10 minutes, and oftentimes that will yield. It is interesting because I'm like, is there something there about the low pressure of it? I don't know. But it's like when we click, right? I really do believe in following your heart and following your part, not just at a brothel, but for all of us in life. I know that we are taught so often to be only in our heads, to like think in our heads, to like make decisions with our brain and our logic brain. And I am really logical. I'm logical first and I have feelings, but my feelings are often logical or related to my logic. And so I totally understand how it's a practice to bring our hearts and our parts, our whole gut feelings and our sacral area into the decision making process. But it really is a full body experience. And there is increasing data to show that our entire human systems are two-way signals to and from our brains, right? Like it's like we are getting lots of information from our gut, from the different parts of us. So that's the food part. And then after food, I usually walk circles again. So even just 5 minutes of walking post meal has been shown to regulate glucose levels. So I always try to do a digestion walk, which ladies at the ranch recently informed me are known as fart walks. Apparently, many people know this because it's been viral on the internet and I didn't pay attention there, but I am now eagerly waiting for the day that I get to do this with someone who has a well matched kink for it. And I will say, if I'm with Gigi and we're walking around, if I pass gas and it's not loud enough to hear, I might be like, oh, the walk is being effective. It's an effective walk. It's working. So I'm like, there's gotta be, I'm like, is there a story out there already? Or will someone out there share with me a story of someone with like a flatulence kink going on fart walks? Or maybe you wouldn't like it as much because it's moving. I'm sure there's all types, right? Okay, now I'm going into a rabbit hole of imagining. I'm like, yes, if it's about smell, I guess they would want a more concentrated room. Well, there could be a fart closet. Okay, well, this is what my brain does. Okay, so all that is to say, I always make sure to go for at least one or two circles of walk after eating more food. And I also try to walk outside throughout the day. I notice that it can be easy to go back and forth between the room and the kitchen and the bar, and you can stay inside a lot if one does not make an effort to go outside. So, again, because I live in a concrete jungle, I get so excited about the opportunity to like step right out the door and look up and there's sky. I also will like open my window here and like stick my head out 7 stories up and look up at the sky. It's just not quite the same as like having feet in grass. And depending on how the morning has been punctuated by appointments or requests or tours or lineups or bar calls, it might be 11 a.m. or 4 p.m. by this point. But once my daily routines are complete, I typically turn my attention toward work. And depending on how social or like sensitive I'm feeling, especially in my ears, like I'm so noise sensitive and light sensitive, and sometimes just like sensitive to energies of people. So, depending on how sensitive I'm feeling, I might work on these things either in the bar, in the parlor, in the kitchen, or go back to my room to work on stuff. Often switching locations, often breaking up the switches with a circle walk or two in between. So, my first point of focus, especially when I'm at the ranch, is email and direct message catch up. So, I try to get to email every single day. I try to get to the ranch email every single day when I'm at the ranch. We don't often have access when we are not at the ranch. They are inconsistently changing this sometimes, so you might hear different answers from different ladies at different timings. We've had some issues with the website, so some people want access to their email and they're able to have it. I like it because I've had a couple situations this year where when we did not have access to email, people emailed me and they thought I was just ignoring them, and so they made and canceled appointments, and that's a bummer. So I do my best to stay on top of email. And currently, as of today, when I'm recording this, I have email access. That might change at any moment. But when I'm at the ranch, I definitely have access to my Sheri's Ranch email. Otherwise, you can always reach me directly through my website, through the How to Woo website, everywhere. So I make sure to prioritize time sensitive logistic questions. And then after that, I typically check my VIP OnlyFans DMs. So that's the at Lunar Woohoo or at Lunar Secrets will both get you there. Then my podcast slash art related emails. So anything that's time sensitive there, if someone's wanting to book a session with me right after I leave the ranch, like I am often going between, I'll leave the ranch, I'll go to a photo shoot, I'll come home, I'll write, I'll unpack, I'll repack, I'm recording brothel episodes, I'm leaving again. Like I just got back from a photo shoot. I had a couple of days of downtime. I'm leaving again in a few days to go to another creative shoot. So it can be a lot. And in order for me to have that kind of schedule, I have to also be like checking that stuff while I'm at the ranch. It's very easy to fall into a like ranch focused tunnel vision. So sometimes my admin stuff slips. So when you don't hear back from me for podcast purposes, it's because we're not recording new episodes at this moment or whatever, And so when I kind of do everything in batches. So once all the time sensitive things are kind of dealt with, at that point, I usually need another stretch depending on how many emails it was. Sometimes I have to stretch in between. I like to go for another walk again. I refill my water bottle often. I make an excellent point of hydrating, like hydrating really, really, really good as much as possible when I'm there. The desert is dry. And I'm always reminding people to hydrate. Like it's a little bit of a joke now, but we also at the ranch, we ladies will do a good job of reminding each other to hydrate. And that's because the desert is really dry and you can get dehydrated if you are not careful. So I definitely need to break up screen time. I'm screen time sensitive before diving back into all the emails and messages across all the platforms. It's a never ending project. And I am now getting more diligent about pointing people toward the fact that I have email coaching and pen pal options available. So I do my best to always respond to people because I want to be accessible, and also time wise it's increasingly difficult. Like it's not something I've ever been great at because I am an artist and I typically want to use my downtime to focus on this writing project or my novel that I'm working on in the background, whatever it is. And I also want to connect with people because that is the whole point of all of this. And so I typically love my time to feel valued. So if someone is writing to me like longer form, I love getting tips or tribute, whether that's Venmo, Cash App, like whatever links are in my all my link trees, all my website links to everywhere. So if someone is writing me long emails, I love to receive that. If someone is writing to me on OnlyFans, that goes to be like $10 per 100-ish words. I'm not nitpicky. It just feels really, really good to be valued. And so typically it makes the most sense for me to respond first to the people who are valuing my time the most, right? And then I have a couple of like GFE clients who are ongoing, who I know respect my time and they show me in all kinds of ways. And so I will also prioritize those emails. The other thing is I only have so much bandwidth every single day to be in email response mode, like especially at the ranch. I have to kind of make sure that I'm tracking my own social energy because I am a human that really, really needs not just alone time to recharge, but I also need like for me time means it's focused creative work, which is tricky because that is still using energy and focus. And oftentimes when I'm writing, I'm doing it on a computer because handwriting stuff is great if I'm stuck and need to get a first draft out, or if I'm journaling. I love handwriting stuff. And for all intents and purposes, it makes more sense for me to write blog posts or my novels or whatever it is on an actual computer. So the next piece of work that I might work on if I either finish all of my emails or feel like I need a break from emails and messages because I'm not in the right headspace, I usually turn to writing. I also might start with writing if I know that I have an appointment today coming up, because that means like if I know someone's coming in and they're going to take up most of my day, then nothing else is exactly time sensitive. So if I have 30 minutes, rather than like using that to kind of jump into this scrabble of like OnlyFans messages and emails and trying to keep up with all of that and maybe not completing and then losing track and forgetting to actually respond, I will simply keep my energy more settled and I can get a focused 30-minute, 20-minute writing sprint done and feel really, really good and really accomplished. And, even if it's pre-writing on my Luniverse novels, like whatever it is. So I have a list of organized writing projects that are kind of in the background that I've been working on for years. If any of you longtime listeners might recognize the name Mission 69. Oh, it's still there. And that is also how I've written all of these How to Brothel blog posts. Like these have been written in snippets between bar calls and appointments. Sometimes it's in the bar. Mostly I have to go back to my room to focus because I will get distracted and also usually end up talking to ladies at the bar. But so I will work on whatever I'm working on next. But I have a list of things to go to. And then sometimes this is what I will prioritize too. Sometimes I'll even do this ahead of my own creative work if it's the right thing. Sometimes I got to balance it out, but I also occasionally will do commissioned erotic stories. I have not done as many of these lately because I have not been advertising it because my writing time has been taken up with my own projects, which is nice. But I love that too. And I guess OnlyFans is sort of like can be a low grade version of commissioned erotic stories, or can be kind of interactive fantasy. Although I will say most of you who are chatting with me on OnlyFans really seem to like chatting about non-sexual stuff. I love hearing the feedback about what you like about what I create. And lately it has not been as many erotic fantasies. So I could work on my fantasy invitations. And also, I trust the divine unfoldings. It's all really, really fun. Another piece of work that I might work on in the background, especially if it's a slow day. I increasingly have appointments, and also sometimes I have a couple days of gaps, and there is this funny waiting energy. Anyone who's been an actor or any sort of job where you sort of have to be on call, I imagine firefighters feel this to an extreme degree. It's a very specific energy to be in readiness, but waiting. Like something may never happen. I used to feel this bartending too, on because I would work Saturdays and Sundays day shifts by myself. And so it's like it might be slow as fuck, but if a lunch rush comes in, you have to be ready to like be on and go. So it's like I can't let my brain check out, but also brains can do terrible things if it's we have our internal monitor that has this idea of should. Like our internal monitor is the source of shoulds. And when I'm like, it's another day at the ranch. I should have booked. I'm used to booking every day. What do we, but sometimes 2 or sometimes even 3 days might go by without bookings. And then I might have 3 days in a row where it's like boom, 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 boom. And it's like, very fun. And also it's an exhilarating roller coaster ride. And rest assured, if you are ever visiting me at the ranch, if I'm tired, I take myself off the floor. Like if I don't have human energy, I don't give people less than what I offer, I say I'm unavailable. Please come back tomorrow. Just so you know. Because I definitely had someone recently be like, well, I don't guess I oh, well, I guess I don't want an exhausted courtesan. I mean, like, how are you? He was asking very detailed questions about my energy levels, and I was like, you don't need to know all the answers. You can trust that I definitely prioritize my self-care, and I will only see people when I feel good and have energy. So all that is to say, in the cases where it is a slow day or where I don't have any appointments that I know of, I'm always traveling with my lights, with my podcast stuff. So I have my gear with me everywhere. It's a little bit extra, it is a lot. And I love that no matter the time of day, no matter the lighting in my room, because they all face different directions, the light in the rooms are very different and definitely not consistent. Some of them are very dark, some of them are the best. My favorite is room 6 at sunset. Like, I love watching the sunsets in that room. So, anyway, I will sometimes do photo shoots. And any of you who are familiar with my posts, either on X or OnlyFans, probably can recognize the Lunar Temple when I shoot in there. And yeah, I only do it if it feels fun, if I have an outfit that I like, or if I feel like I'm, some little thing. So, I do that. In September's, I do my masturbation meditation sensation explorations. That becomes part of my daily routine, and I try to do it as soon as possible so that because if I get swept away, it could be stressful. And sometimes these photo shoots are only of myself, and sometimes I bring in a lady friend. Like Zena and I took pictures in my room. Who else? Jess and Gigi and I are always taking pictures together. We'll do that out by the hot tub. Camille and Cora and I have taken lots of pictures other places, but well, they're usually very, very busy at the ranch too. So, finding the overlap in our schedules where we can eat and walk circles together is its own sort of balance. Then at some point, there will be evening food. I usually eat like 2 big meals and snacks as needed throughout the day. Sometimes it's 1 big meal and more snacks, just depending. I mean, it also depends on what you count as a snack. Because I'm like, my chia pudding with coconut and dried cranberries and sliced almonds and pumpkin seeds, sometimes with or without oatmeal, like it may be steel cut oats soaked overnight, or it might just be the chia. Like sometimes I'll add yogurt or the coconut yogurt, but like that's a lot. But I could make a case that that's a snack, or I could call that breakfast. So these are the details, the heavy contemplations. So yeah, at some point I'll get hungry. The kitchen is the kitchen. You already know about that. And then you know what I'll do next: walk more circles. I also call walking circles or walking anywhere in the house. In the wintertime, I will walk up and down the hallway. Like I'll go to the far end of the hallway. If you've ever been to the ranch and been with a lady whose room is at the very end of the long hallway, you know that's a long walk. We get good steps in. And so I'll walk all the way down there. I will look into if it's dark, because this is usually the winter when it gets really dark and cold. And so I don't want to walk outside at night because it's too fucking freezing. Sometimes I will. I have my big wool coat and it's warm enough, but sometimes it is too cold, it's too windy, or it's rainy. And so I'll stay inside and I'll walk all the way down the long hallway at one end and I'll look at my reflection in the window, and a la Louise Hay, if you haven't read You Can Heal Your Life and you feel like maybe your life needs some healing, Louise Hay is the fairy godmother of self-help. So from her book, I learned to look in the mirror at my own eyes and say my name, and I say all of my names. Like I say as many of my names as I can think of, because I have so many different names I've used over the years, but I will look into my eyes and I will say, Luna, plus all the other names, I love and accept you exactly as you are right now. I approve of you. And I've been getting increasing number of lady friends to do this with me, and then we'll walk back to the ladies' bathroom at the other end of the house, like where clients are not allowed to go. But like if you've booked past the office, there's a small hallway and you walk around and there's couches, and that's where the bunk room is and where the doctors come to visit. There's another bathroom there that has a mirror, and so I'll walk there and I'll affirm that there too. So I also call walking through the house, walking around the property, I also call that swirling. And when I say swirl, I simply mean swirling the energy and doing it in a conscious way where I remain open to positive possibilities of what I'm actively trying to create in my life. Because otherwise, my default, like maybe many of you, I don't know if you relate to this, like if I make no conscious effort to build the life that I want in my head with my thoughts and my energy, then my default meditation is like, oh fuck, I gotta remember this thing and I didn't do that thing and I'm probably stupid about this and this is never gonna work and oh my gosh, how am I ever gonna get all the money for a super brothel and the world is not a sexy loving place? Oh my god, there's so much trauma in this world. It's so little, it's too easy to fall all the way down into dark, 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 dark spirals. And I find that especially when I invite other community into walking the hallways And it's not that we can't share what's on our mind. I definitely always invite people, especially lady friends at the ranch. Like if I have social bandwidth, I'm comfortable to be a processor with them for any difficult experiences. I have a lot of emotional tools that I have gathered over the years of this work, like of the work that started with me researching sex, first with sex stories, and now through all the other all the other rabbit holes we've gone down. And I always want to make an effort to create a narrative arc because that is hero's journey, how humans work and how we can achieve healing. So I like to take the crinkles and then we invite the crinkles to get out. We affirm ourselves as we are, and then we collaborate to imagine the new. And so that's the same energy that I often will bring into a session with a client. It's just like in between those moments, if I'm going to get exercise and get some steps in and stretch my legs, it's also a great way where we can like walk by the bar to see if we should be in there paying attention. But sometimes I am too overstimulated to be in a space. They redid it, and so it's very open feeling now in a way that my animal body doesn't really vibe with. There are huge screens. It's a little too bright for me. It's a little too loud for me. And while I love being in there, like hanging out with ladies, it really saps my energy more quickly than I wish it would. Sometimes there's a lot of smoke and so I can't breathe. So it's a whole nervous system thing for a very sensitive creature like myself. And that said, I still always will be in the vicinity because I have, is it FOMO? Am I afraid of missing out? I mean, I trust that's for what's for me will always find me. I definitely trust that. And sometimes I do have the image of myself. I think this is because on a sex stories in the park, the last sex stories in the park before I got taken off Instagram and accused for solicitation, I was like, that's a podcast. Like there's so many instances where like the world was like, you're a whore. And I was like, I literally wasn't. I guess I should be. Maybe I should. I use that word. I am a legal courtesan. Other people who are not full service sex workers, you should not use it. You should not use it with me. You should not use it with other sex workers. Just to say that. That's an in word that I said, calling myself a whore. I like it. It's a kink. If someone calls me that name without my permission, that's not okay. So all of that is to say, back at the last sex stories in the park recording, I definitely remember Lord Destroyer telling me that I reminded him of a collie dog. I think it was a collie dog. And ever since then, like now when I'm walking around the ranch, like checking on people, like seeing whoever's working in the front desk, like just, it'll be like, oh, hey, Janet, hey, Carrie, hey, Kaylee, hey, other Kaylee, and so just checking to see what's up, how people are doing, kind of energy checking. When I'm well resourced, I do that, right? And then also, if I'm in a grumpy mood, if I've had rude people interact with me, that's when people know I can be a little bit activated, and that's usually when I have to go like chill in the pool or the hot tub, or like cloister myself in my room. If I've had an interaction with someone who's rude, which is rare but does happen, and I'm working on staying calm all the time, no matter how rude someone is. So that's how the swirls work. I'll do a bar swirl. I'll do more admin catch up. Like I will, that's kind of the go to is like, I'll go back to the bar as long as I possibly can. I'll work on more email. I'll work on more OnlyFans messages. I'll work on like remembering to schedule social media posts. And so, I do a mixture of like real time stuff and scheduling ahead so that I make sure that I'm always remembering in case I get busy. And so, it really just depends on how much bandwidth I have. And, when I'm in the bar lately, I really do end up chatting with ladies. Like even if unless no one else is in there, but if someone else is in there, usually they come over and chat. And ladies are really good about being like, "Are you in the middle of something?" And I usually am pretty excited to chat with ladies if they want to chat with me. And then if I need space, I'm usually not sitting in the bar. So rarely do I ever end up doing all of these things in a day. I certainly have. I've done a day where I had no appointments and ended up having no bookings and wasn't, I was feeling very satisfied or tired with the appointments I'd had. So I was like, self-care day. If someone requests me, great, but I'm not going to try hard. I'll show up to bar calls if I'm supposed to. I'll go to lineups if I'm supposed to, but like other than that, I'll like let myself have a creative day if it's especially in the midst of a 2-week tour. It really just depends. And part of the reason, as I've said, is that there are different things that grab our attention throughout the day. So one of those is appointments, and usually I have warnings about these, especially my favorite when I receive direct emails in advance from my sweet lover clients. But sometimes appointments do sneak up on me. The office is getting better about calling us to remind us or like letting us know if a last minute one comes up because Sometimes I'll check, at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whenever I've woken up, and then another appointment will pop up. And now we have a dedicated appointment scheduler. She is awesome. Jessica, you might know her if you've been scheduling an appointment at the ranch. But sometimes they do sneak up. So that's why I always like it. If the person coming to visit me lets me know directly, that is my favorite. Appointments are my favorite way to get distracted from my creative work. It's my most favorite form of creative collaboration. Then I like getting distracted by requests. It is always very exciting to get a call that a mystery person wants to meet me, and this is a great reason for me to interrupt my routine at any point. If I am like in the middle of showering or working out, it might take me a few more minutes to gather myself to go greet an unexpected caller. I'm pretty low maintenance. Also, definitely if I'm like in the gym and already close to the bar, I will just come out and be like, "Oh, I was in the middle of working out. This is what regular me looks like. I can get pretty and come back, or we can, usually they like me sweaty, so that's kind of fun. However, yeah, if I'm in the midst of a shower and like fully wet, then it usually takes me, that's when it is likely to take me the longest. No matter what, I am always excited to see who is on the other end of the request. However, I do admit I am maybe a little less excited if it's between midnightish and 6 a.m. Like midnight, fine, 12:30. I'm definitely gonna try to be asleep, but if you definitely want to see me, I can rally. If it's past 1 a.m., I'm like, there are so many people here who like are nighttime people. Maybe you're more on the same wavelength. I don't know. It's been a minute since I've gotten like late night requests. Although I have had a couple of really sweet special, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. wake ups where someone was on their way to the airport. And those I really vibe with. The worst requests that I have received are typically between the hours of 4 and 5 a.m. I've only gotten a handful of them, and they were all trash. One of them was this stupid guy who called me a little shit in our negotiation, and I got so mad at him. And he wouldn't get out of my room. Like that's the only time where like security was already. I did get him out of my room. It wasn't a scary situation for me. I was like, "You do not come in here and insult me. Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!" And he didn't have any money anyway. So, not that we value people by money, but like he had come in without money to spend, And I was like, "Oh, that's okay." He was like, "Well, I don't really have any money." And I was like, "No, okay, well, this isn't like free dating." I was like, "That's okay. Do you have a credit card?" He's like, "You would ask that, you little shit." And so that's when I was like, "Get out of my room." So that's a good example of when someone is rude, I will lose my shit. I have this little part of me that I call the destroyer, that she's a dragon, I guess. I don't know. She's a fire-breathing monster that like when I experience threat like that, like when someone addresses me with subhuman treatment and it's so clear that there is no respect, no regard for humanity, that is when I get real self righteous and just want them out of my zone. So, as a kind sexual, if someone's nice to me, even if they don't have any money, if they have a good attitude, if they're doing their best to provide value in the way that they can, or even, I get a lot of messages from people who are I knew so little before I started doing all this research, right? So when I receive messages that are sent with a good intention, that are sent with a real need or question, like I always want to make time to be generous with people who might not have access to good information otherwise. But when someone's being a Jerkosaurus Rex, then I turn into the destroyer dragon and would like to get them out of my sphere. So that's a little insider tip about between the hours of 4 and 5 a.m. in my personal experience. I've had a couple other weird ones that were fine. I will say I love getting woken up at like 7 o'clock, like early in the morning when I'm like would have woken up just in a second anyway. And those morning surprise requests are usually so lovely. They typically know exactly what they want. Oftentimes it's a blowjob. I'm like, is there a fantasy out there for like first thing in the morning blowjobs? Because that's kind of cute. And it's like, I also make a point if I have been asleep, if I'm fully like going from zero sleepy to like, I'll go to pick you up, I make a point of like not really waking up too hard because not everyone wants to book. Or sometimes people see and it ends up being a recon mission or like that guy. I mean, he's the only one that's ever called me such a rude name, but oftentimes I wait to fully wake up until I'm sure that we're actually going to party. And I also get really excited. I'm like, so once we make an agreement, then I'm like, now it's time to do a dick or pussy check. Like, time for you. I will say, I've never had a woman wake me up in the morning. It's only dudes, which is fine. Which is fine. Again, if it's simple, straightforward, great. I've had some. Yeah, I had one really sweet guy who was on his way to the airport, and he was such a good example of someone. He knew exactly what he wanted. He'd been there once before. He was clear on his budget. His needs were. It was all totally reasonable. He was such a sweet energy, such a sweet attitude, and we, like, with so much fun and joy, we got 3 rounds in an hour with a lot of talking and cuddling in between. Like, it was, like, just efficient, fun, playful, like, so, so fun, and then he's like, "I gotta go catch my flight." Like, he was like, "Well, did you make sure you set the timer?" He's the only person that's ever been like, "Did you set the timer?" And so I do like morning wake ups, even if it's earlier in the morning than I might normally, if I don't have time to get through my whole routine. That's okay if I'm just like waking up and getting cuddled right away in the best ways. So the day can also be interrupted by lineups. This is another very fun one. Normally, these only interrupt whatever task I'm in the middle of for a few minutes, unless I'm the one that gets picked. And if you don't know, lineups are a real life Tinder experience where visitors intending to party may ask for a lineup, and all the ladies available within 3 minutes will come out and we introduce ourselves one by one for the guest to then make a selection based off like look and vibe. And I especially love them because I think it is so exciting to see everyone together looking beautiful. Like, it's waiting for it, like we wait in the sides and like we're kind of like chatting a little bit. I love seeing everyone together, for a good reason. And especially for anyone who might feel overwhelmed by the prospect of a bar call, which is like a long string of conversations in the bar, or anyone who wants to trust their animal instincts. I love lineups. I think they're fun. I think they're efficient. People are like, "Oh, how dehumanizing." And I'm like, "No, it's not. Like, not if the person's not dehumanizing us. Most of the people are incredibly polite." It's so, so cute because a lot of people don't know what's about to happen. So we come up one by one and we take turns and we have a whole way we walk and we introduce ourselves. And oftentimes, the first and second one, the person will be like, "Oh, hello, Camille. Nice to meet you, Gigi. Hey, Lou." And then they'll realize it's going to happen over and over again. So then they just sort of stop. But it's really cute, I think, at the end when whoever has called the lineup, selects the lady of their choice and then thanks all the other ladies. Like, it's always really, really sweet when we feel appreciated. So I love a good lineup. And, then there are bar calls, which sometimes people are like, "Oh, lineups are dehumanizing. I want a bar call where I talk to everyone." And so, like, totally get it, totally valid, totally an option with the way that Sherry's is set up as a structure. And that's, again, a lot of people love to have chatting, and a single bar call might stretch on for literal hours if a guest really, really loves to use the full 10 minutes of chatting time allowed with a lady in the bar. And I will say, I've never seen anyone come into a bar call like prepared to tip each lady they talk to. I personally think it is, I mean, I'm excited to talk. I'm always like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" Da, 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 da. And if someone's a good conversationalist, great. However, if I know that there are 10 or sometimes more ladies waiting their turn to talk, I will typically point out to the person like, "Hey, this is how it works." And also like, "Hey, do you like me or do you want to chat to someone else?" Like, it's totally fine either way, and sometimes people just take time to simmer and settle in, and I always tell them that's totally valid. Follow their heart, follow their heart, wait until the nervous system has calmed down, then request the lady or ladies of your choice back. And at the same time, like anyone who's like, "Bar calls are way more respectful," it's really not, because we are not paid for our time unless we are booking. And so unless someone comes in with cash ready to hand to each lady to show them they appreciate it, like, that's great. I know people also offer to buy drinks. I don't drink, so I'm like, I don't really want to order an apple juice. Like, I save that sugar for a party, for a special occasion. Um and so I prefer lineups for this reason. However, I also love sitting in the bar waiting with ladies, especially when it's clear. Like, sometimes I have a hard time like being like, "Is it my turn to go? Was it her turn to go? Wait, do we go? Does that person want to talk to more people?" I socially struggle still in that way. So I much prefer requests and lineups and structures that are very, very clear. I also love it when someone comes into the bar, looks at the ladies, and then like identifies someone that they're attracted to and walks up and politely introduces themselves, asks if they're available. One time, Gigi was talking to this couple, and this guy, I think it was my exit, and I had just exited him, and he fully went up and like interrupted her conversation with no regard for the fact that she was with 2 other people. So don't do that. However, if a lady is talking to another lady at the ranch or whatever, it's totally appropriate to go up and be like, "Hey, are you available? I like you. I'd love to chat more." That's how bar calls should be done, in my opinion. And it's fine to talk to everyone. If you find yourself in a conversation with someone and you're like, "I'm not feeling the vibe with this lady," it's totally okay to be like, "Hey, I want to be really respectful of your time. You're just not my type." And there definitely have been instances where like one of my lady friends went up to a guy a couple weeks ago and she immediately came back and we're like, "What happened?" Because he had been a good conversationalist when I talked to him and she's like, "I look just like his daughter." So things like that have definitely happened. I had one guy one time, I was trying to encourage him to do a 2-lady party because I found out he was a foot worshiper and I was like, "Oh, one of my friends, my friend Genevieve, she has magical feet. They are attached orgasmically to her pussy, so you can suck on her toes, and I want to witness that." And then he was like, "Oh, she looks like my coworker," and I was like, "So?" And then he was like, "Oh, okay, good point." Like it didn't end up mattering, but at first he was like, "Oh no, she looks like my coworker." So I don't know what kind of relationship he had there, but all that is to say, bar calls are really fun. It's a really good reason for us to have tasks that we can do in the background while we're waiting our turn to go. And, it's also extra wonderful when a bar call is quick and efficient. When the visitor does find a lady that they vibe with right away, then we all are like, because we all show up if we're available. And then it's like, "Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's good." They figured it out. And we can always be requested again later, right? So just because a person goes back with a lady, oftentimes they do hit it off and that's great. But if they're not sure, if they don't vibe, ultimately there is a chance to kind of, you can always request whoever you want to request. Sometimes the day is also interrupted by tours. Tours are supposed to take about 10 minutes maximum. However, sometimes because we have that 1-to-1 ratio rule, like that guy at the beginning who's like, "Oh, so you guys just paint each other's toenails?" The reason that even happened is because me and another lady were waiting to find a third lady who was available to come with us to give this tour because we need a 1-to-1 lady to dude ratio at all times at the ranch. That's a safety protocol that is in place everywhere. So even in situations where someone maybe doesn't want a 2-girl party, but they want to do a dominant session where they are dominant over a lady at the ranch, automatically we have to bring in a safety buddy, which is really hot. And safety is so sexy. So tours are supposed to be 10 minutes. However, when I find myself with a group of curious individuals, especially people who really are like, you know, shocked and awed or are curious about me, I will let them know about the podcast. I'll let them know that I'm an artist. I will let them know about my work with communication and sexuality and how I really, really aspire to shift the way we see brothels and legal sex work in this world, all sex work in this world, to view it as educational and healing. Like anyone who partakes knows that we are always learning. Definitely it's healing even if it's not like, oh, big capital T trauma, though oftentimes it is so nourishing to feel safe and to feel held. It's like going to the spa and getting a massage plus plus plus, and having that kind of connected intimacy that a lot of people do not have access to is really, really important. So even if I get a tour group who's not going to party and they are sort of like coming to look at the zoo animals, as long as they're polite, I often try to let them know to let their friends know that we're out here, or if someone is lonely, or if someone's going through a transition time, or if someone wants to gain relationship skills, or if someone simply wants a safe place to come try a threesome, whatever it is. And again, tours are always free, but tips of all sizes are always appreciated at the ranch. Any of those things, appointments, tours, request, whatever, all of that could lead to a negotiation. It could lead to a booking, it could lead to a party, and after parties, we have to do some cleanup. Depending on what kind of party, there may be a lot of cleanup or not very much cleanup. I always shower. I usually go do a circle or two in the courtyard to clear my head, to just reset the energy. And so all of that can happen, throughout the day as I'm doing these other background tasks. So even though I'm presenting it to you here in a linear format because I am one person and wrote this so that I could speak it to you, it is a swirly, startastic energy could go everywhere. And if you're watching the video, you can see that I'm gesturing with my hands wildly all over the place. The day might also be peppered with things like getting called to the front desk to receive packages. I love packages of all sizes. To fill out a report, in the cases where someone negotiates with us and doesn't end up booking, they just want to know why. Like, did we scare them away? Were we price shocking them? Was that person just not ready? Did we have a bad vibe? I will always, because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to go back to your room. Like, this is just a recon mission. Like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to negotiate. I'm like, the only place I can help you prepare for next time, like if you want to look at offerings, if you want to look at price ranges, if you want to actually just like, I think it's cool. I mean, I want to go in every lady's room. I haven't been in every lady's room because I feel like I have to be a certain level of like on a personal level with them to like ask if I can come in their room. I leave my door open so people know that, I try to invite people if they need a meditation space or somewhere gentle, as long as I'm not partying. I try to make the Lunar Temple a space where people can feel safe. One time, one of my friends had a sad day, and I came into my room and I found her like crying on my floor, and that made me feel actually really happy. We were close enough that she knew that that was okay, and she needed that, and so I was able to comfort her and like calm her down. And so like that's really really sweet. But yeah, sometimes I'm like I think it's just cool to see the rooms of a lady. So I always invite people to come back to look at what it's like to check things out, even if they didn't bring money to tip, even if they don't, like. But also we can take tips on credit cards. But also it is a cumbersome process, and yeah, it's a whole thing. And so because I'm like, no, just come check it out, just come see. Like I still have to fill out a piece of paper that says I didn't scare them, but they were just curious or whatever it is, or like they wanted an overnight and they didn't even have house minimum. So, stuff like that. What else do? We make tea. I drink coffee in the morning. I drink non caffeinated tea in the second half of the day. Like I said, eating snacks. And I often find myself observing beautiful clouds and sunsets and moonrises. And it's extra cute because there are a handful of people at the ranch who know that I love looking at beautiful clouds and sunsets. And so, like, Jackie, who's one of our bartenders, will often like have the office call me to come like look at a sunset, and I love stuff like that. Like that makes me so happy. So, yeah, the most exciting surprises throughout the day are always the interactions that I have with people. The ranch is so full of excellent, top-notch stories, whether from a lady or a staff member or a visitor. And while I am totally used to reveling in the stories and getting really personal on pod, which has gotten me into trouble sometimes at the ranch because I forget. Like I have to really be like, this person does not know that you are an open, friendly, safe Luna. This person has never thought about sexuality or talked about these things, but like comfort levels are all over the place, and I am still learning to calibrate and clock that based off of like cold reading another person. Not my best skill. Like people are like, oh, like anytime someone tries to accuse me of any form of like charlatanery, I'm just like, I don't, nope. If I was good at like navigating social norms and like knowing exactly what people wanted, I definitely wouldn't be on this entire journey. Like, we teach what we need to learn, right? So, um, all that is to say, I'm used to the stories on pod. There's absolutely something special about the privacy and the intimacy that is the oasis at Sheri's Ranch. And I love the openness and the sharing in a non judgmental place. Like, that is one of my favorite, favorite, favorite reasons for going to the ranch. Because unlike someone who applies to be a guest on the podcast, knowing we will go deep, probably knowing something about the show, knowing how I am, knowing that they're safe, stories from unsuspecting story sharers who have no idea how much I love personal stories and learning directly from people. And it's not always sex stories, right? Like it's not always even relationship stories, although often I will go down like therapy rabbit holes or healing rabbit holes. I will not be a free therapist if someone is like in complainer mode or what. No, no. But I'll talk about like different. I'm like, oh, you want to talk about internal family systems? Okay, well, have you done any EMDR? Oh, wow. Oh, DBT. Tell me what that is. Whoa. Okay, dialectical behavior. You've done that. I've only read about it. So, but hearing what people are going through in their lives, what people love to do for fun. There are not very many contexts that I experience otherwise in which that's possible, right? Like for me, photography created that initial container of intimacy. And I was like, well, people tell me all sorts of stories. And then when I would share a little bit, like I would leave a kinky thing out and they would like observe it and I'd be like, well, I'm kinky. And then they would tell everything. And that is definitely one of the things that led to this podcast, because I love getting details. And I really feel like one of the very best things about working at Sheri's is it is such a high concentration of non-judgmental, open-minded people. We all have our different things we were raised with, and Sheri's is really special for that reason. And it's totally hard to quantify or organize where in these daily-ish tasks I might stop by a lady friend's room or say hi or host a chat or a co-working session in my Lunar Temple. So the balance of this ability to bask in community and seek solo space when needed is another of my favorite things about every single tour at Sheri's Ranch. There are also familiar weekly rhythms that bookend each tour that we have. So for me, I do a tour that is 1 week or 2 weeks. So some ladies will do up to 4 consecutive weeks. So we're allowed to book like 2 weeks in every month. They do want us to take time off. So we're real people. Nobody lives at the brothel full time. That does not happen at Sheri's Ranch. I've heard that happens other places. I don't know specifically. But I max out at 2 weeks, mainly because I have other art and work and family stuff that I must tend to. So on Mondays, if you find yourself in the parlor around 6:30 a.m., you might see a batch of ladies waiting for our 7 a.m. room selection, where it is first come, first served choice of room. So if you have visited, being in a big room or a little room has absolutely nothing to do with what we earn or our like status in the house. I definitely have heard that that is what some people think. It is not related to that. It's related to, are you willing to show up really, really early, or do you value having the maximum amount of time in your life to yourself, to your family, whatever, and will you show up at the last minute? That's pretty much the difference. So if the room that you end up getting in room selection is already open, the lady who was in it previously has already left, you can start moving in right away. However, since ladies have up until noon on Wednesday of their tour to leave, it is always a roll of the dice. Mondays are also not ideal days for outside morning walks, I have learned, because that's when landscapers visit. It's totally fine. It doesn't affect a guest experience. I'm just like, So during the season when there are dandelion puffs, this is relevant because I make sure to blow as many of them as possible to spread as many wishes of love as possible for our world. Not that I'm telling you exactly what I'm wishing for, but you could probably guess my general themes anyway. So I try to do as many dandelions as possible before the yard guys arrive. Tuesdays often feel like the most energetic day in the house because there is a lot of overlap with the coming week's ladies arriving, in addition to the ladies currently on the floor, living there. Some ladies are staying for another week, some ladies are leaving. So it feels like a big energy day. Every lady must arrive on Tuesdays in time to see the doctor, which is usually around noonish, give or take, for our weekly STI testing. And after that, it might either be time for unpacking and room setup, again, if the room is open, or we might stay in the ranch's bunk room because it really is like hot lady summer camp, in which case I might then, I try to not do work on a Tuesday if I'm staying there. Like I'll just be like, oh my gosh, I get to just live life now. So that's when I'll like swim or a hot tub or move my butt. Okay, I guess it's all the same things, but it has this feeling of freedom because I'm not trying to complete it by any moment. Like just, that is the task of the day. I'll start answering ranch emails if I have email access at that point, or I might just catch up with other ladies. Like it really is a wonderful day where I'm like, well, can't do anything until doctor's clearance comes back, so I'm just here to rest, or can't do anything until I get into my room. Yeah, and if I am in my room, I will go full focus and I'll try to get the Lunar Temple set up by Wednesday morning. And clients who walk down the hallways on a Tuesday might notice a collection of 40-ish gallon storage totes in the hall with different names on them. So each lady is allowed to keep up to 4 bins and store decorations for our room, 40 pounds maximum, which is why I store my rocks in my locker. So we could put toiletries, anything that we might otherwise need to like schlep back and forth every tour. So I love getting into my room on a Tuesday or sometimes even Monday night so that I can get my bags and bins unpacked and put all of my canopies and toiletries in just the right spots so that I am ready to go first thing on Wednesday. And if it's the end of a tour, I am usually in packing mode on Tuesdays. At the end of 2 weeks, I often will leave by noon at the latest on a Tuesday unless I have an appointment with someone who I definitely know will show up for me. If it is a 1 week tour, I usually start dismantling the Lunar Temple on a Tuesday afternoon or sometimes later in the evening, and then I'll leave first thing on Wednesday. So depending on how much packing angst I have and whether or not I am interrupted by bar calls or requests or visiting lady friends because I don't want to pack or I need encouragement, it takes me 4 hours if I'm focused, 6 or maybe 8 or more hours if I'm not. And I would say it's about 4 to 6 hours to set up, because sometimes people come into my room, they're like, "How long does it take you to set this up?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't usually do it all at once, but on the times where I have, like, just put in an audiobook or Huberman Lab and I'm just, like, going and unpacking and listening, yeah, I think, like, 4 hours if I'm really focused, but usually by the time I get all my lunas up on the wall and my mirrors, maybe closer to 6. The canopies, here's the thing, sometimes putting up my canopies is so easy, and I get the thumbtacks right in, and boom, it's in the right spot, and then some days I feel like I couldn't. I'm like, "Have I ever put up a canopy before?" And the folds aren't quite right, and I'm like, I make similar shapes, like, I now have it down, like, I make a little tunnel of fabric so that when you walk in, it's, a la Art of Gathering, I want to feel transformed by the space, and then I flow it into the room, and I like to make a nice cozy space over the bed. I don't like the way the ceiling looks without a canopy. I don't know, it's shiny, and it just feels so open to me, so, yeah, energetically sensitive creature here, that is, one of my gifts and also one of my lessons. So Wednesdays are the start of each new tour, so we get the all clear from the doctors usually by 9 a.m. And as long as our sheriff's card is current, now ladies are officially available for clients. Every quarter, ladies do have to fill out a bunch of redundant forms, both electronically and on paper. Like, we have to fill out the same information on paper. And then I was like, why aren't they moving this to electronic? And they did, but now we just have to do both every single quarter, 4 times a year. And then we go down to the sheriff's office to pay $160 to use their electronic system. It used to be $150, but now with the processing fees, we pay for their new system with almost another $10 of fees. So we get the beautiful opportunity to pay that every quarter and go down and get fingerprinted and background checked. So at that point, if our room is not yet open and we have a request or an appointment at the ranch, we do have the option to negotiate in a hospitality room and to party in various specialty rooms, though I definitely love and prefer when my visitors get to see my whole lunar temple setup. I know the power that a cozy space can create. I also have had people come visit me. Like, one time I had a really sweet couple come visit me, but I got the request 5 minutes before I was let into my room. So I made them wait 10 minutes so I could be floor ready. We have to wear heels and the right kind of clothes, not our travel gear, not my cargo pants. And so I was dragging my bins into the room and I was like, ah. And they didn't care. They really didn't care. It was fine. We had so much fun. And then I had another similar situation, 3 or 4 tours in a row. I didn't get into my room until 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. And another time, a guy who came in with me I was like, "Look, my room isn't set up, and I do normally like it to be aesthetically pleasing, so just imagine." And he was very, very fun and playful at being like, "Oh, I see, it's so beautiful. Yes, the Lunar Temple." And so, it's not the end of the world. It's just, it is much nicer when everything is set up the way I like it, obviously. And finally, Fridays are for karaoke, which one of our sweet regulars hosts for us every single week. It's open to the public. It's usually starts sometime around 7 or 8 p.m. It's not an official time, but it is definitely more about having fun than being an excellent singer. I think it is. I used to work at a karaoke bar, so I thought I was done with karaoke forever. I could skip Don't Stop Believin' and Bohemian Rhapsody. I never need to hear those for karaoke again. I will leave. Those ones that I had two. How many years did I work at a karaoke bar? I don't know, 3, 4, enough. But otherwise, I love encouraging ladies to sing. I'm always like, "Are you gonna sing? Are you gonna sing?" If there are people in the bar, this is the time where we get to be a little bit more open. If someone comes in and they're there to party, there's the rules of 10 minutes talking still apply. But we're allowed to be like, "Are you gonna sing? Who wants to sing? Do you want to sing next?" And it's a really, really fun vibe. It is not a great place for me to focus on chatting or meeting. So if someone requests me, I'm like, "Could we please leave here because it's loud and I can't hear?" But Sherry's holds an incredible amount of talent. And it is funny because people are like, "Wow, you ladies are talented." And it's like, yeah, you are revealing your assumptions about sex workers by saying it like that. But yes, we have a fuck ton of talented goddesses. Yeah, thank you for noticing. So if I'm singing, you might catch me with some of my favorite go-tos. I have a number of them, but lately, my one of my top favorite songs ever. That's my one of my favorites to sing is "Stand by Me," Ben E. King. I also do "Young and Beautiful" by Lana Del Rey. Or sometimes I'll do Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. Like, there are a couple notes in there that I cannot hit, and it doesn't matter. But I do it pretty good. And one time Gigi was like my backup dancer, and it was so good. And we'll do lots of group duets, like group songs. We have like I think 4 microphones now that Andrew's gotten for us. So I'm always up to be a backup singer or join a group too. Sometimes I just support, but sometimes it depends. Sometimes there's a week where like so many ladies are great singers and I don't need to like be there. But if it's a week where we're low on singers, I will get up and sing a bunch. I love singing. So those are the kind of weekly rhythms at the ranch. And then seasonally, I will say first, time definitely moves differently at the Oasis. My theory is that the sheer number of orgasms that have taken place there do cause it to stretch and bend in surprising ways. So there are seasonal rhythms like extremely hot, hot, hot summers. They melt into beautiful, nice falls, then into some very freezing winters, and then back into some really exquisitely beautiful springs. So outfits and amounts of time spent by the pool might shift, but no matter where I am, these activities are pretty much what I'm doing in the background when I'm not with someone at the ranch. At the time of writing this, I am 33 tours deep in just under 4 years of my trips to the ranch, and each one definitely feels like its very own magical pilgrimage. Every single coming and going for me is a marker of what I've learned since last time, what I'm working on right now, and I always manage to find myself growing and expanding in the most wildly, delightfully satisfying ways. So, no, we don't usually paint toenails. I get a pedicure ahead of every tour for my foot worshippers. But what I do every day, no matter where I am, is take care of myself so that I can take exquisite care of others, so that we may all go forth and spread ripples of love. A couple of other day in the life FAQs. Do ladies leave the ranch? Since we invest time and energy and pay to rent our rooms there, we want to be at the ranch. Like, we want to be there. Sometimes they're like, oh, you poor caged animals. And I'm like, no, we all chose to come here in the first place. And like, we can leave for errands. And the point is to be available for the people who want to visit us here. Like, it would be so sad to disappoint a client or regular because I want to just like be out. Like, that's not how it works. So while we cannot leave with clients like they can in some of the northern ranches, if a lady has an errand to run, that is a totally normal, allowed thing. We are adults, free to come and go. We are not prisoners. Let me be very, very clear about that. Do I masturbate between clients? Often, yes. I am especially big on edging, as you probably know, but if a certain session was extra hot, or if it teased me in some way, I might have to relive some bits of it and reset my energy all over again. Can you hear other people having sex? Yes, quite often in our rooms. This is another glorious gift of the magic that exists at Sheri's. Sure, there's sometimes where I'm like going to sleep and then suddenly there's music and I'm like, oh man. But it also is great. Like, I'll turn on the fan in my room and it's pretty fine. Like, or I have a app that plays noise on my phone. Cameron was just showing me a white noise machine that she got for her room that was really impressive. So I might get one of those. But I'm usually not opposed to hearing the sounds. I love that. So let me know if there are any other questions you would like to know about life as a legal courtesan at Sheri's Ranch. Feel free to email me or contact me through any of my websites. Or if you want to share any related or other fantasies, actually, yeah, don't share fantasies It can be a fantasy if you explicitly say fantasy, but on OnlyFans, never, ever, ever be like, I am coming to the ranch. If you want to email me, do it through howtowoo.fyi or lunarrobbie.com. And remember to read the written version of this episode. You can find all of my How to Brothel guides on my website at lunarrobbie.com/FAQ. I love hearing from you, so please reach out with any reflections, questions, and resulting experiences. And always follow your hearts and follow your parts. And remember to share sex stories.